At 77, Dolly Parton finally shares the truth about Porter Wagoner, and their last goodbye. For decades, country music fans have cherished the story of Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner, a duo whose chemistry defined a generation of music lovers. Their partnership, both beautiful and turbulent, helped shape the country sound of the 1960s and 1970s. But while millions adored their duets and public friendship, few knew the truth about the emotional roller coaster behind the scenes. Now, at 77, Dolly Parton has finally opened up about the man who both made her a star and broke her heart, the truth about Porter Wagoner, their painful split, and the emotional last goodbye that still brings her to tears. When Dolly first met Porter in 1967, she was just a young woman with big dreams and a voice that could melt the toughest hearts. Porter was already a well-established figure in country music, the charismatic host of The Porter Wagoner Show. When he invited Dolly to join him on the show, it was the break she had been praying for. But with that opportunity came a whirlwind of fame, creative tension, and emotional complexity that neither of them could have predicted. In her early interviews, Dolly often spoke fondly of Porter's belief in her talent. "He gave me a platform," she once said. "He believed I could be something special when I was still just a girl trying to make it." The two quickly became an inseparable team, singing together, touring together, and sharing the kind of professional bond that blurred into something more complicated. Fans couldn't get enough of their harmonies, both musical and personal. Their chemistry on stage was undeniable, sparking rumors that their relationship might be more than just business. But as the years went on, creative differences began to simmer. Porter was a proud, old-school entertainer, while Dolly was full of youthful ambition and innovation. "He wanted me to stay in his shadow," Dolly admitted in her later years. "But I couldn't do that. I had my own dreams." Those dreams eventually became a wedge between them. Porter, who had been Dolly's mentor, grew jealous of her growing fame. She began writing her own songs, crafting a unique image that outshone even his. By the early 1970s, their partnership was crumbling under the weight of ego and unspoken emotions. "We fought like cats and dogs," Dolly said in an emotional interview decades later. "But there was love underneath it all. I'll never deny that." The moment that defined their separation came when Dolly decided to leave his show in 1974. She knew the time had come to go out on her own, even if it meant breaking Porter's heart, and her own. He didn't take it well. Their final meeting before her departure was heated, full of pain and resentment. But as Dolly later revealed, she couldn't express her feelings through words. So she did what she did best, she wrote a song. That song was, "I Will Always Love You." When she played it for Porter for the first time, the room went silent. He started crying, Dolly recalled. Then he said, "That's the best song you ever wrote." It was her way of saying goodbye, a musical love letter to the man who had been her greatest collaborator and her most difficult relationship. The song would go on to become one of the most iconic ballads in music history, covered by artists like Whitney Houston and Elvis Presley. But to Dolly, it would always belong to Porter. Despite their painful split, the two eventually reconciled. Years after their professional fallout, Dolly quietly visited Porter in the hospital during his final days. It was an emotional reunion that few knew about until she recently decided to share the story publicly. "He was so frail, but when he saw me, he smiled," she said softly. "We talked for a long time. I told him how much he meant to me, and he told me he was proud of everything I'd done." Their last goodbye was one of peace, forgiveness, and gratitude, two people who had been through the storms together finally finding calm. Dolly has often said that Porter's influence never left her. Even after his passing in 2007, she kept his memory alive through her music, tributes, and her continued love for the traditional country sound they once created together. "He was hard to love sometimes," she admitted. "But he was impossible to forget." In recent interviews, Dolly has opened up more candidly than ever before about the depth of her feelings for Porter. While she insists their relationship was never romantic in the traditional sense, she describes it as a soul connection that defined her early career. "He was my teacher, my tormentor, my inspiration," she said. "There's no way I'd be who I am without him." Looking back, Dolly admits she sees their years together differently now, with understanding instead of anger, and love instead of pain. "We were both so stubborn," she said with a laugh. "We both wanted to be the boss. But that tension, that's what made the magic happen." Even in her later years, Dolly continues to honor Porter's legacy. She often performs "I Will Always Love You" in his memory, sometimes breaking down mid-performance. That song was for him, she reminds her audience. It will always be his. Theirs was not a perfect story, it was messy, passionate, and painfully human. But it was real. And in the world of show business, where relationships often fade as quickly as fame, Dolly and Porter's connection endured through music, forgiveness, and time. Now, as Dolly reflects on a life filled with triumphs and heartbreaks, she says Porter remains one of the most pivotal figures of her journey. "People see me as a success story," she said. "But Porter was part of that story from the very beginning. He was a part of my roots." Their partnership may have ended, but their songs live forever, a testament to a friendship and rivalry that shaped the heart of country music. From the glittering rhinestones of the Grand Ole Opry to the tear-streaked goodbyes in a hospital room decades later, Dolly and Porter's bond defied the odds. As Dolly put it, "He was one of the hardest lessons I ever learned, and one of the greatest blessings I ever had." Even now, fans who grew up watching them together still feel the magic of those performances. Their duets, full of laughter and heartbreak, captured something timeless, a reminder that love, in all its forms, leaves an imprint that never fades. And for Dolly, that truth is what keeps Porter alive in her heart. "Every time I sing," she said quietly, "I feel like he's right there with me." At 77, Dolly Parton isn't just looking back, she's setting the record straight. Porter Wagoner wasn't just her partner on stage, he was the man who challenged her, believed in her, and inspired her to write one of the most powerful love songs of all time. Their last goodbye may have been bittersweet, but their story, woven through melody and memory, remains one of the greatest duets in country music history.